Hey guys, just wanted to do my review of Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 2, Justice Society of America. It continues from where the last episode left off, and Nate is trying to be diplomatic and talk to his grandfather, who happens to be Commander Steel and a member of the team, but in its typical superhero fashion, it ends up being an all-out brawl between the two teams, and because of the coordinated efforts of the J.S.A., the Legends are defeated and imprisoned. And they try to tell Rex that they met him before, but Rex doesn't remember meeting them. And then there's a flashback to the Season 1 finale in which Rex came to the 2016 of the Wave Rider and tried to warn them not to come in 1942 or else they would all die. But he presumably got erased from existence. And so Nate decides to show the dog tags that he inherited from his grandfather and his father before him, or how it was just passed down from generation to generation, which has some validity to it. But once they get a call from the president, the J.S.A. just decides to send the Legends on their way back to the future, or whatever time travel venture they're going to go to next. And they're supposed to go track down Baron Krieger in Paris, who's meeting with the Reverse Flash, who wants to give him a super soldier serum in exchange for an Askeren amulet. The super soldier serum is supposed to turn Krieger into a villain called Captain Nazi, and the Askeren amulet is from the Shazam mythos. I think it's used from a DC character, Isis, and so I don't know if the Reverse Flash wants to give Damian dark magical powers before he got the Leanne totem, or if he wants to somehow use the amulet against the Legends and bury it somewhere down the line. And the problem is with the JSA is that they come across as assholes. I mean, they're well coordinated and organized, but they kind of just like look down upon the Legends, and they're just really surly with them and condescending. And even to the point where like Rex is like so sexist to the point where it's like he just assumes Stein's the leader just because, as he points out, he's just, as Jax points out later, is like, oh, because you're the old white guy. And so he decides, you know what? And Stein decides, I'll be the leader. Rip's not around. I'm the oldest person here. I should. It makes sense that I become the leader. And so when they're traveling through time, Nate realizes his dog tags are disappearing, and he realizes the JSA dies on their mission in Paris. So they go back, they infiltrate the cabaret. Stein goes in disguised as Max Lorenz because he says that he apparently resembles him the most, and performs a song from The Sound of Music, in which he tells the band the same instructions Marty McFly gave to the band in Back to the Future Part 1. Watch me for the changes and try to keep up. And I at least appreciate that the show acknowledges the fact that traveling through time for black people is terrible, but I don't think they get the idea that the further black people will go back in time, the worse the racism is. Arguably, I mean, they went back to the 50s and acknowledged that, but the fact that they go back to the 40s and black characters are allowed into a Nazi party is just really pushing it. And that's considering how much of a crazy bonkers the sci-fi show is. Because Vixen's able to get in, Jax is able to get in, even though the Nazi makes a comment about he doesn't want Negro music. And Ray ends up blowing their cover because he doesn't want to do the Nazi salute. And of course Stargirl shows up with the rest of the JSA to knock everybody out. And they're brought on the time ship, the JSA, and they decide to work together to, track down Krieger and recover the amulet. And Stein wants a more cautious approach, but Sarah ends up kind of encroaching on his authority, and they all take kind of hit him hard, hit him fast. And Krieger takes the serum, and when both teams ambush the Nazi army, they're overpowered by Krieger, and And Stein gets flustered as to what to do next, and Sarah decides that they have to retreat and reluctantly leave Ray and Vixen behind. And Stein realizes he's not cut out to be a leader. Rex wants to call in a bomb squad and willing to sacrifice Ray and Vixen. Sarah argues that Ray's going to come up with a plan to get them both, to get himself and Vixen out. And it's not until Stein comes in and relinquishes his leadership to Sarah that Rex gets his head out of his ass and starts listening to her. And lo and behold, when the Nazis threaten Vixen, Ray says he'll work on replicating the serum, but then they're able to make their escape, and the Legends and the J.S.A., they show up. Sarah grabs Vixen's amulet and gives it back to her. Nate shows up on a motorbike to help his grandfather escape. And it was mentioned earlier by Sarah that she realizes that Nate is a hemophiliac and he doesn't think he should be out on the battlefield, but Nate's been so fed up with having this like sheltered upbringing that he wants to be of help. And Commander Steele is sort of like standoffish towards his own grandson just because of the fact that he feels like being a hero is a burden, and he feels like he doesn't like being a hero, and every time people try to follow in Commander Steele's example, they ended up dying, and he doesn't want the same to happen to his own grandson. And the bombers end up killing Krieger. Everyone escapes, but the bomb knocks out Commander Steele and Nate, and because of Nate's hemophilia, he almost ends up bleeding to death, but Ray ends up managed to hold on to a sample of the serum and modify it, and was able to use it to at least heal all of Nate's wounds. And I feel like of course it would make sense that Sarah's the leader because she's like the no-nonsense. She's the most one of the more level-headed members of the group and can make the tough decisions. And I'm happy that they did. I'm happy that it happened because Sarah's one of the most badass characters in this whole franchise, and I'm a huge Katie Lotz fan. And then the episode ends with both teams parting ways. They're able to recover the amulet, but then Rex is confronted by the Reverse Flash, who impales him with his arm. And that's the reason why the Rex was faded from existence, although I don't know if the Reverse Flash came from a Reverse Flash from a later point in time who found out that he went to 2016 and came back to... The less you think about it, the better, but basically, Reverse Flash runs off of the amulet. Vixen comes in devastated, and the last thing, and Rex's last words are "time traveler." So it creates an interesting dynamic as to which it's implied in the synopsis for this week's episode coming up that she stows away on the Wave Rider, assuming that they had something to do with the murder, or at least wants to find Rex's killer. But the thing is that, like I said, the J.S.A. come across as very unlikable. Some of them don't have any dialogue or really show off their powers much, and she's even like super rude to Ray when she says that when he realizes that he relies on a power suit, and it says that, Ray, if there's any consolation, you're not really a hero. And even after he saves both of their asses, she's just like, Ray, you're still not a superhero, but I'll give you props for what you did was like pretty heroic. And I just would have been like, the Nazis may be evil, but you're just a bitch. And I figured with you getting rid of Hawkman and Rip, I just figured, this season they were going to get rid of all like the douchebag characters this season. But now it's like, this is not like a really good first impression to have for the new Vixen. So time will tell if I'll actually warm up to her, or she'll actually get some character development and maybe like warm up to the team, even though they're kind of like this bunch of rag. He's now working with a team that's not as well coordinated, and they're kind of this bunch of misfits, and maybe she'll bring some discipline. I don't know. I'm just not crazy. I think that J.S.A. as a whole, this didn't really make a good first impression, but aside from that, I think it was a really stellar episode. They did provide a good foil for the Legends as to the ideal they want to meet, live up to, and kind of get their shit together, especially since they don't have Rip. And I think that's the great thing about Rip not being around. They're gonna have to, and having Nate, who's the more inexperienced one, they're gonna have to like make their own mistakes, learn from them, and kind of grow from them instead of having Rip come in to pick up the pieces and just kind of like scold them like children. So I'm looking forward to that. What do you think of the J.S.A. and the team and the episode itself? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.